My name's Mark and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello you lot and welcome back. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you notice at the start of every season I usually spend a few minutes talking about where we're heading next. But this time feels a little bit different. It feels a lot less like a new season, and more like we're now turning a page. Because over the last 6 seasons, we've explored everything from anxiety and confidence to friendships and self-belief. Now, those conversations have really mattered, and for any of you that haven't heard them yet, they're still there. So just check out the back catalogue of all the episodes that we've done so far. But as this podcast has grown, something else has shifted for me. I've been thinking a little bit less about the topics and much more about the questions that are held within those topics. And it's normally those questions that for you tend to pop up just when you're trying to switch off at night. The ones that you almost say out loud, but don't quite get there with that. The ones that maybe sit quietly in the background for weeks, months, or even years, because you're not quite sure how to put it into words. And it's questions like, why do I feel like this? Is this normal? Why can't I just tell someone what's going on for me? What if no one believes me? Now, there's a lot more questions like that, and a lot more deeper questions that we're going to get into from now onwards. Because the more I've sat with those questions, the more I've realised that they're rarely just about mental health. They're usually about trying to make sense of ourselves. And that feels like the right place for Headstraight to go next. Rather than just starting each episode with a topic, we're going to start with a real question or a statement and just see where it takes us. Sometimes it's going to lead into mental health. Other times it might take us somewhere completely unexpected, because that's how real conversations tend to work. And there's another reason for this change as well. Over the last year, some of the most meaningful conversations haven't happened whilst I've been recording. They've happened afterwards in messages, emails, and voice notes that many of you have taken the time to send. You've shared your own experiences, you've told me which episodes have stayed with you, and you've suggested questions that you'd like me to explore. And sometimes you've just written to say, I thought I was the only one feeling like that. Now, I want to let you know now, those moments really matter more than I can probably properly explain, because they've shaped where this podcast is going, and they've reminded me that Headstraight works best when it feels less like something that you listen to, and more like something that you're part of. So if you've contacted me before, then thank you. And if you've just been listening quietly in the background, but you've never quite felt ready to get in touch, I would genuinely love to hear from you when you feel the time's right. And like I've said, whether it's a voice note, a message, or an email, I really don't mind which. Every conversation helps me to understand the questions that young people are really carrying. And if you're wondering how you can get in touch with the podcast, then you'll find all the different ways of getting in touch in the description of every episode. Now, the one thing that really struck me whilst putting this new chapter together is that the older I get and the longer I work with young people, the less interested I become in neat, simple answers. Because life just isn't that tidy, and people definitely aren't. The conversations that stay with me are almost never the ones where somebody found that perfect answer. They're the ones where something clicked, even slightly, where somebody began to understand themselves just that little bit more. And so that's my promise for this new chapter. I'm not going to pretend that I've got everything figured out. What I can offer you is what I've learned from more than 30 years of working alongside young people and their families, and to give you a chance for us to think these questions through together. Because that's really what Headstraight has always been about. Not me talking to you, but us trying to make sense of things together. So in the next episode, we're going to tackle a thought that comes up such a lot for so many people. I wish someone would notice without me having to say anything. So, are you up for it? Of course you are.